Hello, I am the Ronan Bourne, and welcome to a twitch.tv/Ronan Bourne live stream on twitch.tv/Ronan Bourne. This is it. We're here. We're here by popular demand, by your calling out. I asked on the Discord servers at discord.ronanbourne.com, what do you want to play today? Do you want to play, Meeple Station? Do you want to play XCOM Enemy Unknown? Do you want to play Myst 4 Revelation? Meeple Station, incidentally, being a game that's in alpha right now, or early access, I think very early access, that is like an isometric, sort of cartoony, sort of bitmap paint, MS Paint kind of. It's got a graphical aesthetic. I'm not dissing it. I'm just saying it's a simple graphical aesthetic. Isometric, view down, space station builder, colony management kind of a thing. Meeple Station. And by popular demand, majority consensus, no, let's just sit here and chat idly for 4 goddamn hours. So welcome to the live stream, everybody. So, Pawn, first question of the streams is a secret to every pony. How do we get the chat up? That's not what he said, but I'll get it up for us, chat. Boom. So, Pawn, first question of the stream. My dog recently had some puppies, and I know dogs pick up their young by the scruff of their neck, but I don't like doing that to the puppies. Is it safe for me to wrap my hand around their bellies instead? You think I'm a veterinarian? Yeah, it's fine to do that. Absolutely. You can pick them up like that. If dogs had digits and opposable things and could stand on 2 legs, and some of them can, but if they could balance appropriately, they'd pick them up and like hold them and rock them and stuff. You could do that. You kidding me? Sure. Also, but, okay, you don't want to like screw up their head about like what affection is, so occasionally, whether you want to or not, you have to get down there and you gotta get the back of the neck and your teeth and you just listen up and you just pull them down somewhere else just so they know what life is supposed to be. So you're gonna have to, the taste of puppy, it's delicious. You'll never want ice cream again. But don't blend them, because it doesn't come out right. Hologram 1 says, Pawn, relevant question I find very important. When you use the Vive, what's the field of view like? Fine. Fine. I had no complaints about, like, the visuals in the Vive. I mean, I suppose that's an exaggeration, because, text is hard to read, but that's more for the developers of the games in the Vive to be like, well, you're going to need a bigger font if you're going to want me to read something in VR. But, so if you had like a little piece of paper down there, but visually speaking, in terms of field of view and stuff like that, it was not even considered by me, because the experience of being in virtual reality and having that actual depth and looking around and going, holy shit, this feels like I'm in the place, especially with the Vive and the room scale. Yeah. Well, how far to my size can I see? It didn't even come in. I wasn't even interested. And it never bothered me either. Like playing Minecraft and having creepers sneak up behind me and stuff. Like I never thought, I don't ever remember thinking, God damn it, if I could only see a little bit more to my left. I mean, just turn your head for Christ's sake. Or spin around. Was it close to your real field of view? Because with my Oculus, I find that I just don't really have the same field of view as I do in real life or flat games. I suppose, thinking back, like I say, it just never occurred to me. It wasn't a thing for me, but, I mean, it's still, I mean, the screens come out to about here, so you're talking about probably like that. You definitely got some horse blinders on. Maybe like that, actually. Yeah. Yeah, because the screens are very close, and the things, it's... For me, I really can't tell you, because it never came up as an issue. I was too, like, marveled by the experience of VR to ever have that experience, or to ever be bothered by it. Except, if there is one circumstance, if I would have got Euro Truck Simulator working in VR well enough that I could play it without wanting to vom, which has a couple of challenges to it, because number one, you're driving a car in virtual reality, so your body is like expecting to feel and you don't, and that is what causes that seasickness when your visuals don't match the rest of your sensations. But in addition to that, um, it Euro Truck Simulator isn't designed for VR, so trying to get the kind of frames out of it, that was also an issue. They've done a lot over the course of the past like year and a half to get more frames out of it and present you a VR experience, including sacrificing like tree fidelity and stuff. When you do trees in VR, they actually turn with you as you like drive past them. If you're watching them, they actually just they keep the leaves facing you. But I think in that game I might have actually been bothered by the field of view. Not so much looking forward, but when you want to like look out and look back, I'm an old man. I can't be bothered to turn my head. Look out the window and do that, and oh god. Are we talking about seasickness? All right, Pawns is a guy called Jim. Seasickness and blending puppies. Burger King versus McDonald's, as is the secret to every pony. Burger King. I haven't done either in years, but Burger King's chicken sandwich with the mayonnaise and the lettuce on it's just a chicken patty breaded kind of thing, but man, that's a childhood memory for me. The taste and flavor of that, my dad would come and pick me up. We're going to do some storytelling if we're going to sit here and idly chat for 4 hours. And so his divorced family, very, amicable, very friendly and everything. There wasn't any like, he's a son of a bitch, and your mother's it wasn't any of that going on. But so he would come up, sort of weekend warrior dad, and he would come out to me, about an hour drive to come to me, and then pick me up, and we'd go out, and, just about every weekend was a friggin' holiday, because I had a, because I had a divorced family, and my dad would come out and, drop a bunch of money entertaining me on the weekend. But we would go out, and we'd go to, like, arcade, that was originally called 313 Game Room, or Game Room 313, and that was the area code, the phone area code for the area that it was in, and then eventually became, I think, just Game Station or Game Star, I don't know what it was. But we would go out there, and I'd play, the big 4-person X-Men console fighting game, and console, arcade game. But after that, we would go and go to Burger King, and he's been a vegetarian for a very long time, so he would literally like get a Whopper without any meat in it, which is like 3 buns, some lettuce, and I don't know, mayo, or that special sauce, which is, I believe, like just Thousand Island dressing or something like that. But man, I'd get that chicken sandwich, and the way that heavily processed, packed into a certain shape meat, just So Burger King. But Taco Bell's the place to be if you're gonna be eating fast food, and a big part of that is just the price and the amount of food that you get out of it. I mean, none of it's good for you. None of it's that delicious, except for those chicken sandwiches at Burger King. So as long as you might as well get a bunch of food for not a lot of money. Jim cheering 5. So I spent about 9 hours on trains Wednesday, much of it at a high speed. When I got home and sat in my desk chair, I could still feel the swaying. I could still feel it the next day. Crazy shits, as a guy called Jim. Yeah, I've had experiences with that. Actually, speaking of VR, when I first got the Vive, so playing the Vive for like the first couple of days and then taking it off, my eyes would be like, wow. I mean, it felt more real than real for some reason. Maybe this is all an illusion. But what I found was that in like looking at a web page or something, if I was looking at this web page, the text had depth to it. Like it would be floating above the surface of the screen after the first couple of days of being exposed to VR for me. And I'd be reading stuff and just suddenly it would sort of float out a little bit by an inch and I'd be like, weird ocular effects. I gotta agree, Burger King just has better food, in my humble opinion. And, Wendy's, I suppose. I've never, been a Wendy's person, because by the time I might have been interested in Wendy's, I was already going vegetarian, and none of these fast food places are particularly good for vegetarianism. You can't get a salad that doesn't have chicken laced in it, even at Wendy's. I mean, you can ask them to make you something that doesn't have it in it, but the problem with that, you go out to restaurants, you're a vegetarian, and you need to order something that is prepared without meat. Because if it's something that you want that sounds good, just take the meat out of it, it's not going to be any good. because these chefs rely on the meat to add the flavor. You need to order vegetarian stuff, so going to a fast food restaurant and saying, "Can I have that but without the meat? Make me a salad but without the meat." Sure, here's a bunch of iceberg lettuce, some carrot shavings, and a packet of ranch. Have just the best day of your life. You don't want to do that to yourself, kids. If you go vegetarian, go all the way. I didn't, though. I still eat meat here and there. Tuna and pepperoni on my pizza, and I don't give a shit. It's allegedly a 110-degree field of view on both headsets, which I find hard to believe, honestly, because in Gorn VR, I had so much flipping trouble with it. Oh, for the, I don't know. It never bothered me. Nothing ever bothered me. I guess it's, you can't really blame the weakness of the hardware there. It's the developers of the games. Like, you have to think about that when you're designing a game. Don't design a game where you need to be able to see stuff that's over here. I don't know. It didn't bother me in any of the games that I played. Nothing finer than extruded nutrient paste in between carbohydrate foams, says Bearsuit Lane. That's right, man. Those buns that they just microwave or whatever. I had Taco Bell last week, Paul, and it was kind of shit, says a guy called Jim. Right, so you had Taco Bell. You didn't have to say the second one. The first sentence implicitly contained the second sentence. It's good. I do Taco Bell primarily because of the mostly vegetarian thing. They've got, a number of dishes with beans and rice and and their taco salad is an exception to my previous rule. You can say, make me a taco salad, take the beef out of it, throw some extra beans and rice in there, whatever, pack it out. And the sauce that it comes with, which is probably, 1,600 milligrams of sodium, as is most sauce. Pay no mind. As is most sauce. It's good. You dump that over it. It could be just shoes, They just have boot heels that they've cut off and shaved up in there. And you'd be like, with the sauce, it's chewy. It is chewy, but, Yep, on VR feeling better than real life. I definitely feel you there, says Hologram One, right? The first time I used it, I'd use it for a little bit, and I was still getting over the initial sort of VR sickness that you get. But I'd get out of it, and I looked around, and it was like the real world seemed flatter. And maybe it's because your eyes have to work a little bit harder, or they're doing something, they're active in helping to create the VR. I don't know, but the rest of the world felt flatter and falser. That's what I see when I get high upon the text floating, and Pony is laughing after that. But okay, wow, you guys are, this idle chat thing might actually work. Because, when I have... Don't cough, it'll hit you harder if you cough. When I have partaken of a little of the Mary Janeses, one of the experiences that stuck with me was there's this bathroom in a bar called the Pink Painted Lady. I think they just call it the Painted Lady these days, but it's the Pink Painted Lady. South end of Hamtramck. And in that bathroom stall, there is just scrawl on the walls. Scrawl on the wall. Hey, I'm illiterate today. I can't read anything either, but that's two different A and I. There's just all this scrawl all over the walls. People have been writing on that wall since the beginning of time. There is no way to tell what anyone wrote at any given time because of the overlapping colors of ink, and it's a big mess. And a little bit of... And I stood in front of that stall while I was peeing, and I looked at it, and the different layers just, pulled out so that I could read, entire sentences in this just mess that visually I couldn't tell what it was when I was, sober. But with a little bit of help from the ganja, using grandma's terms for marijuana, a little bit of help from that, my eyes were able to just automatically, separate out the different texts, and I could read, for a good time call, and that sort of a thing. And there were some very, potent spiritual messages in there. There was a particular limerick that will stick with me for the rest of my life. Not because I want it to, so I'm not going to share it with you. But Who cheered? Rubber Ducky said, when I was little, this wasn't the cheer. When I was little, when I went to bed, I could still feel the swaying of being on a swing. Ah, it's called hyperrealism, says Bearsuit Lane. Yes, or it's called realizing that the rest of your life is a lie. And we don't want to acknowledge that, so we call it hyperrealism. Do any of you guys watch Review of the Week? Oh, Jim, you fucking dipshit. Ice Cream, do any of you guys watch The Report of the Week? I do not. I know nothing of what you're talking about, but thank you for spending 10 of your pawn points to ask me the question that I have no answer for other than I found a little Steam VR homepage with scripted items. One was a gravity gun, but the integration with the vibrate control made the haptics perfect. Oh. Oh, cool. I'm not subbed, but I've watched a few of his vids. Was it The Report of the Week? Never even heard of it. Limerick? Is it the one about the man from Nantucket? He had a bucket. I remember that. He might have... No, I don't recall the rest of it. In terms of licorice, in terms of limericks, I wrote a limerick once called Tricky Lime Untied. I named it Tricky Lime Untied. Why? Because Tricky Lime is, if you take the two words, you take the lime and you move it to the front, and you put the tricky over here, and then you put them together, you've got lime tricky. And then if you untie it, you pull out the T and the Y, then you get limerick. Tricky Lime Untied. And I won't be able to remember it, damn it. Maybe later. Maybe it will come to me later. So, are we going to stare at this thing the whole time? No. What can we do then, Pawn? You guys want to look at my DT energy? Well, let's have a look in on Zillow first off, because I know Hologram 1 wouldn't let me get away with it if we didn't. Let's have a look at my Zillow, and yeah, god damn it, my saved homes. I have been saving a couple of homes. Honestly, none of the places that I've seen have been like, ooh, lately. But I do keep saving some things. We'll see if anything is a little bit of the ooh. So these are the homes in my local area in Detroit for sale in a certain price range. And in Detroit, I think I tell them don't really tell me about anything that's more than $20,000 or $30,000, because that would be not actually in my price range, but it's what I'd be interested in. So, what, apartment for sale for $20,000? I'm just gonna apartment for sale. Is that you insane? $59,000 and you're selling just a portion of it? Okay, I may have missed that, or maybe they're wrong about what they're selling. That's ridiculous. You sell an apartment in an old shitty house. Foreclosure for $5,000. There was one for $3,000 recently that I looked at, and I was sure that I saved, and here it is, and no one is talking about it. Well, today's house, this is one that I looked at today. So on 1171 East Grand Boulevard, we have a two-story, 3,000 square foot, really three-story when you build in the attic, and there's a full basement. 3,000 square foot, 5-bedroom, 1.5 bath home for $52,995. And the reason that I was interested in this is because I'm interested in the concept of having a duplex, in buying a house that's designed for two families, that has two units, either an upper and a lower or a side-by-side. But a duplex would be interesting, and one of the reasons why I'm a little bit interested in it is that my mother owns her home, which she bought at the bottom of the market in 2013 or something like that. Maybe 2012. She bought at the bottom of the market, and I'm actually a little bit, I'm happy with how this turned out. We'll call it pride, because she had just received her back pay for the years that she'd been filing and waiting for Social Security disability, which in this country, I've mentioned it before, takes an average of 3 years from the moment that you start, as telling the government, hey, I am physically incapable of holding down a job and making an income and supporting myself, and they say, okay, please get in line and figure out a way to live for the next 3 years. Well, we summarily deny you first, and that's just part of it. Everybody, unless you're missing a head, I've said before, everybody has to win on appeal, because it's just part of the process. They deny everything unless your head has come off and you're just in a jar now. 3 years you will wait. So after her 3 years, they pay you back pay for what they owe you for the years that you've been filing. So she got a lump sum in for 3 years worth of what they should have been paying her and what she somehow managed to survive without any income and without the ability to work anymore. You'd think that's a pretty big gap in the system, isn't it? Yeah, we got a system for if, people just, they can't work anymore. We got to, we don't want just people dying in the streets, so we got to do something. We're going to, have some support. But you're going to have to make it float for 3 years without any income. So I hope you know someone who has a basement who you can live in. She did that. She got her lump sum. And I said, she was looking for like places to rent. And she looked at a couple apartments for like $600 a month and on a fixed income on Social Security disability, which ain't much. It's like, I think back then it was just over $1,000 and now it's like $1,100 a month. So it's not much to live on. I live on less, but it's not much to live on. She was looking at apartments for $550, $600, which would have been kind of tight if you want to, also have a car and be able to put gas in it. And you have to in America. We don't have public transit systems that work. And, have cable and internet and eat. Basically on that budget, $600 a month plus that's it. You're not going out to eat. You're not going on any big road trips. You're not never going to take a vacation for the rest of your life ever again, unless your son decides when he's doing well in his janitor position that for Christmas, well, in February, we're all going to go. I'm going to take you to, where did we go? Puerto Rico, San Juan, Puerto Rico, before the hurricanes hit. Although it would have been cheaper after. Damn it, I missed out. So she's looking at apartments and I say, you got enough money to put a down payment on something. You should look at buying something, especially in this market. And I went on Zillow right here real quick, and I searched some properties in the area that she was looking in, and I found one of these, like, foreclosed homes that, before the bubble burst and the market went to shit, had a value of, like, $90,000 that was on the market for, like, $38,000. And I said, with your, back payment, you can put a huge down payment on this. You can, you should look at this. And she actually did. And like the first thing that I sent her on Zillow turned into the house that she bought. So that's pretty cool, man. Things don't come together like that usually in life. You jump around and look at a whole bunch of stuff. And now, because she bought at the bottom of the market, she has a mortgage that she's paying on. She owes money. I think she owes 20-some thousand still on the mortgage. But, and maybe it wasn't 38,000. I don't know how much it was, but she still owes on the mortgage. It's a condo, and it is presently worth, the ones that are selling next to her are going for $105,000, which she purchased for somewhere around 40 and has 20 to pay off. So yesterday, I told her, call a real estate agent now. Get the hell out of there. Because her condo association is horrible. And if you're ever looking for property, think twice, think 3 times, think 4 times about condos, people. Let me tell you, because here's what's happened to her. So the concept of a condo is you buy the property, it's your property, except for the association sort of owns the property. It's a little bit weird in concept, but you own the place. It's yours to buy and sell, but they are responsible for the exterior. And in her condo, it is very much made in, a bunch of units that are attached side to side. So it's one long building with a shared roof, and then you're buying a section of the building. The concept here is you buy in, now you own the place, and you have to pay the association, the condo association, their association dues, their fees, monthly. So you're going to have a mortgage, and you're going to have the fees to pay the association. Her association dues are $100 and something a month. I'm not exactly sure. It's doable. It's reasonable. She considered it when she purchased it. She can swing that and the mortgage, and it's still cheaper than the apartment that she was going to rent. So it worked out until the association needs to do a big job, and has spent all its money and hasn't saved any of its money and hasn't planned for a rainy day whatsoever, and they've got not enough in their coffers like they should have. They should be saving the money and collecting it, not just spending it on bullshit. And then what do? We need a new roof on this building. We need a new roof on all the buildings, presumably, because they were all put on, and these homes were all built, around the same time. So, yeah, we've got a bill of $40,000 or $60,000 to put a roof or roofs on buildings. What do? Well, they hand out what they call assessments. An assessment is the kindest word that they could come up with for, fuck you, we want your money. We know you're already paying us your dues, and we know you're paying your mortgage, but we need to do some work that we're responsible for as the condo association, the board, and you thought that that was a good deal, right? We're going to take care of the landscaping, and if something goes wrong with the exterior of the house, or the plumbing on the outside, or the sewage or something, that's going to be on us. You thought that was a good deal. It is on us, but we can just decide to put it back on you if we don't have or want to spend our money. And so they hand out these bills to people that say, in the next 3 months, we're also going to need an extra $1,000 or $2,000 from you for this big job that we need to do. Possibly not even on the building that you live in. Could be a building across the way. It's a condo, Condominium, the association might manage multiple buildings, and they do in her area. So you might be paying thousands of dollars you weren't expecting to in order to repair someone else's roof because your association didn't do its fucking job. So think twice, think 3 times, think 4 times around condos. They sound like a sweet deal, and they can be if the condo is well managed. But basically, you need to research the association before you purchase, and you need to, talk to people in the area who are not on the board of the association. Talk to people who live there and say, what's your experience been with the association? And you need to pull the financial records of the association and say, how much money do they have in their bank account? Because if they don't have any, then the idea that they're going to take care of your property's exterior, and that's the agreement here with the condo, it's not really what's going to happen. You're going to be billed for it. Pawn, you keep talking about buying houses. Don't you guys have mortgages in America? Says a guy called Jim. We do. But the problem that I have, the situation that I'm stuck in, is if I sold this place, I'd have hopefully around $20,000. I have to pay back between $4,000 and $5,000 that I still owe myself on buying this home. So I would have about $15,000 to buy another place. Now, that would involve me selling this place and then moving all my stuff out, finding somewhere to live, and then buying another one. So that's kind of inconvenient. You think, well, that's the reason for a mortgage. You buy a house on a loan, and then yada, yada, yada. I don't make enough money for anybody to want me, to write me a mortgage in the first place. But if I could get someone to write me a mortgage for a low income sort of a property, then the next problem is the kinds of houses that I'm interested in are fixer-upper on the edge of blight in Detroit. Some of them $3,000 homes. This place was $2,500 when I bought it foreclosed. But something around like the 20,000 or below region, maybe 25 or below, is what I'd be interested in, and then put some more money into it and roll the costs into the loan and get some money back. And the problem is banks do not write loans for less than $50,000 or 60 even. In some cases, they just don't want to, and they've got they figure they have no financial incentive to, because doing all the paperwork and pushing everything around, it costs them money, and then once it's done, they're looking at like, what's our income going to be, and when are we going to make this money back? And it's going to be, nobody wants to write a 15-year even loan for $25,000. They're not going to make that much in. And the screen just went to sleep. I'm going to have to move the mouse occasionally. They're not going to make that much money in their interest, and they're not going to make that much money in a down payment, and it's a bad situation for them. It's how they look at it. I see it as a market opportunity. I see that they could, you just have to do high volume. High volume, low profit. But high volume of low profit equals high profit. That's actually how capitalism is supposed to function. because the concept would be, competition in the marketplace drives down prices and drives people to compete, and people invent new ways to provide the same services for different situations. It's just that it doesn't work that way because capitalism is an inherently flawed system based on, greedy people figuring out ways to fuck people out of money. That's what it comes down to, and it's way better to just like go across the street to your competitor and say, "Hey Jim, what if we agreed to not drop our prices below this amount on that product?" I think that'd be pretty good for the both of us, don't you? It's way easier to just dominate a market with a monopoly and an oligopoly than it is to, play the game of capitalism. Capitalism is a nice theory, but it's an ideal, or it relies on an ideal, and your ideal isn't even ideal, As you call me a socialist because that's what I call me. Nah, Pawn, I'm confident you'd have more than 20 grand from your place. The amount of improvements you've made, it turned into an actually inhabitable house, says Hologram One. Well, thank you. I have deflated my expectations now just because I look down my street. I look around my street and go, yeah, the area I'm in and everything, And a lot of this isn't finished either. There's a little bit of electrical work, there's a lot of painting, there's a lot of mudding and drywalling and things that still need to be done. If I sold this thing tomorrow, I'd be hoping to get like 18.5 out of it. If I got it all finished, I'd be hoping to get 22.5, something like that. But, it'd be up to a real estate agent. I told my mom, if you're gonna, you should call an agent, list that house, and just hands off. Just hands off. Don't try and control the process. Don't try and find out what the price ranges are. Just call a real estate agent and say, what do you think I can get for it? And if you don't like the price they give you, call another real estate agent. But other than that, hands off, let them do all the work, and that would be somewhat of my mentality too. Get the agent in here, say, okay, what can we get? And then if she tells me that, well, if you did the floors, then we could do, then maybe I'd do the floors. Why do I assume a real estate agent is going to be a woman? Maybe because I'd prefer to have a woman for a real estate agent. Yeah. Yes, competition working to drive down prices, like it is in England with internet prices. Unlike America, where everyone works together to rise the prices, says Hologram One. Comcast, Verizon, and AT&T are definitely in cahoots. Definitely, you can see when they blackmailed Netflix, you can see all of them participating unilaterally and squeezing off the bandwidth. I just can't believe, can I? You talk about your area, but well, with places being demolished and such, I think you'll be in for an improvement in that department soon, says Hologram One. Yes, if I can get this house across the street knocked down, which, So I have the sign. I've showed you the sign that says the city of Detroit will demolish this structure within 2 weeks of 8/08/2018. It is now 9, one day short of 08, or 9/7/2018. On the date that they were supposed to knock it down and they hadn't, the 2 weeks, I called them. They said, we've pushed it back to the 4th of next month. It is now the 7th of next month. So I called them again, and they said, we have no date for that house anymore. Welcome to Detroit, ladies and gentlemen. You call 911, you get put on hold. You call the police, they don't come. They tell you the biggest words on that sign. That's what's just hilarious to me about it. I now possess the sign, because fuck them. It's in my house, it's a poster. The biggest words on that sign, font 350, are will demolish. The city of Detroit will demolish the structure at this address by the date of. Will demolish. And then in the bottom corner it says, if you have comments or questions, call us at 1-800-WILL-DEMOLISH. It's a lovely place to visit. I shouldn't be saying that. Pawn, just grab a Molotov and burn it. Once the house is structural danger, they might be forced to do something. Oh, it's a structural danger already. I've been inside it. I looted the bricks out from out front of it. It's been condemned for ever since I got here. They're not going to do anything. This house is $52,995, 3,000 square foot. Let's have a look at it. So here it is from the road. Here it is a little bit closer. You see the boards on the windows. Hey, it's Detroit. You got to do that. There's a board up here, so there's clearly like a window actually missing from the attic. But we will see later, these windows are actually still there. They just boarded them over so that they would still be there, at least in these pictures. Will demolish. Detroit is not liable to demolish this building. Terms and conditions apply. You know, that's the thing, is none of that's on there, and what they've done in preparation to get the house demolished is they sent people out who tore out the asbestos and the lead paint, and just, you know, they environmentally sanitized the house for demolition. In the process of doing so, the house is now completely open. Anybody can walk in, set up shop in there. And then they said, we will demolish it within 2 weeks, and now they haven't. And it's like, are you just trying to get a crack den across the street from me? Like, is there some liability here when the house was all sealed up, nobody was going in there, it was filled with trash, which my neighbor actually did before he moved on and moved out. He apparently loaded it up with, like, old used tires and shit, and barricaded the door from the inside and just filled it so that it would be completely... You know, not even homeless drug addict would really want to camp there more than a night, kind of a thing. And then they came in, cleaned it all out, made it sanitary, and then said, we'll demolish it. Now they're not. So somebody comes along and puts some plastic over the holes, or throws some boards up or something like that. They got themselves a nice little foreclosed, condemned, gonna fall over any day. We were supposed to knock it down, but hey, now it doesn't have any lead or asbestos in it. Let's start cooking up some meth. I mean, I don't know what's gonna happen. Man, Detroit's a shithole, says a guy called Jim. No, it's Africa. Ask our president. Fish, seafood, this is painted on the side of your house, apparently. Which is interesting. I wonder if you could, if that place is still in operation, you buy this place, maybe the advertising fees you could charge them month to month. You could pay the mortgage on or something like that. It's an old house. The roof is, Jesus Christ, the roof is, though, isn't it? You got yourself, you can't even call that a garage. You got yourself stables out back for your horses, I suppose. You can pull your garage into there. It looks like it looks. I'll give you that. It's right. This is not actually where the house. It's close to here, but this is Gratiot, looking down toward downtown Detroit. Where's the Rensen in this shot? I think it's going to be further down over there, or yeah, the Rensen's the tallest building, so I'm surprised we can't see it from here. Maybe that's it. Gratiot does that. I don't fucking know. Yeah, when you see pictures on Zillow where they're showing you more of the neighborhood than the house, start to get a little, but this isn't one of those. Because once we get done looking at, look at that view from downtown of the main road that you don't actually live on. That's kind of nice if you like dirty and 1970s era construction. On the inside, though, this house is not in bad condition. I don't know that it's worth $53,000 on the streets of Detroit, even with 3,000 square feet. I don't know about that. Pawn, just fill the house with petrol and burn it. Make it noticeable, and then call the fire department so you're not looked at as an arson suspect. Let's all visit Pawn and burn down old buildings near his house. This is a secret chat room. Maybe the sign belonged to William D. Molish, Detroit. Will demolish. It was just a signature was all it was. They should have called him Bill then. Bill demolish. So the interior's okay here. It's definitely, I don't think it's worth $53,000. I have looked at 2 years ago. I was looking at homes that had similar square footage that were like $5,000. It was the bottom of the market. People were just trying to get rid of all these foreclosures on their hands. I'll bring the fire, says Bearsuit Lane. Okay, here's what my thought was. If I wanted to get them to actually knock down the damn house, I go over there, can of spray paint, and I'm not going to put, like, gang signs or anything on it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put in clear, bold text, Detroit Police Department average response time, 48 minutes. $300,000 spent to build a stadium for a billionaire, visit the Hungry Howie's, or no, visit the Little Caesars Arena in downtown. Just put statistical and factual statements on the side of this house that remind people of the condition of Detroit, and then see how long it takes them to come over and knock the wall down. We could see, that might help. That might encourage them, you think? Everybody thinks that's a good idea. Yes, Pawn, yes, good one. It's a lot of text for some graffiti. That's the only problem, is that there's so many holes in the frontage of the house, I don't know that I could fit it all in there. Also, Paul, ever heard of Wanksy? I've heard of Banksy, not Wanksy. Less than 48 minutes, says the Secretary Pony. The average response time is 48 minutes in Detroit. You call 911, your average response will be in 48 minutes. My response on the nights that I needed them was over an hour and a half every time. But I suppose sometimes they get there in 20 minutes, and when you balance those out, you get 48. Because I've done the math myself. I downloaded the public 911 records for Detroit, put them through a spreadsheet, and did the calculations myself. So I'm not quoting anybody else's work. It's my work. I confirmed that the priority 1 response time is indeed the 14 minutes that people tell you, which is horrible. Priority 1 is, a crime has occurred, is happening, there's nothing you can do but try and stop it, or, write a report about it now, and it takes them a quarter of an hour to get there. But when you average out priority 1, priority 2, priority 3 calls, it's 48 minutes. Priority 3 is like 54 minutes, I think. It's basically an hour. Call the cops, it's an emergency, somebody's breaking into my house. 15 to an hour and a half, if you're me. Do that. It generally might make a difference. Do it, says Allogram 1. Record the painting. It's a hell of a thing to do for like a resistant sort of public statement, wouldn't it? Just go around and instead of, doing slipshod graffiti, go out with templates and poster boards cut out in the shapes of your letters and the words you want to spell, and put them up and then put another one up and then put another one up, and put these messages that are factually correct on the abandoned, burned out buildings in Detroit, and then see what they do. What are they going to do? It's probably cheaper to actually knock down the houses than it is to get up there with turpentine and clean them. I mean, the way that the city of Detroit works anyway. It would be something. It would be a statement. It's not the first time it's crossed my mind. Get like the most obnoxious paint color also, neon green or something, says Telegram 1. Mm-hmm. That's, mm-hmm. I got here late. What's wrong with the house again, says KSBJT? What, the one that we're looking at here or the one that I'm living in? There's nothing really wrong with my place. I'm safe here. I got a security system and a shotgun and a boot knife and a pistol that's fake and a samurai sword that's fake. I have a number of weapons stored around my house, including I have throwing knives, because Rex purchased and sent me, I think it was Rex, purchased and sent me, like, fucking straight out of Naruto, throwing knives with a little loop at the end, and, that shape of... Because I told him I used to, sell knives, and I used to carry a knife, and I could throw knives, and he was like, well, here's some weighted throwing knives in case you get into a bad situation again. So I've got those in a certain place in the house that you wouldn't see coming. And they're packed up in like a roll, very Japanesey, so you like unvelcro and then... Groggles. Hello, Groggles. Priority 1 in Britain is crime is in progress, immediate threat to life and limb, home invasions, etc. The stupid thing is we have no option to defend ourselves. Kunai, says Groggles. Yeah, that's what he sent me, was kunai. So I'm pretty sure that's basically the same in Detroit. Priority 1 is, crime in progress. Priority 1 is no longer, like, you can't prevent crime at that point. And so when Detroit gets up, and it's just amazing to hear, like, the police go, 14-minute response time, high five! Because, number one, that's not a good number. That's not a good number. You call for police in the suburbs, they're there in 4 minutes. You call in Detroit, you got a quarter of an hour average, which means sometimes it's 30 and sometimes it's 3. That's awful. The average for normal places is 3 or 4 minutes. 7 is like the outside. I think New York City takes 7 minutes to get a response from the police, and that's their average for everything. Detroit takes just its priority ones, which means make sure we've got toe tags in the glove compartment because something already went down. We're not preventing crime. Crime has already happened. And they hold that up like a banner, like, look, we got it. We're doing so good. 15 minutes after a crime has occurred. Priority 2 on its own is 48 minutes. And I think with all of them, it averages out to like 48 minutes as well. But the priority 2 response time is 48 minutes. Priority 2 is shit's about to break off. If you get here in a couple of minutes, you might be able to prevent it. I'm sure that I would hope that my call about the woman who'd been beaten and was at my door and wanted the police to come out and protect her from the lunatic who was coming to my door, I would hope that was a priority 2. That was an hour and a half we waited. Every time that we called them, it was an hour and a half. And they didn't actually come at the end of the hour and a half the second time. Because they came because it became a priority 1 when the guy broke out my windows and came through and was threatening my life and I was on the phone with the 911 agent. So basically in Detroit, if you want the police to come in a reasonable amount of time, my advice to you is call them up. If there's like some, people out in the street shouting, making a lot of noise, and you think that there's going to be like a fight or something like that, call them up and just go, "Oh my God, he's got a gun!" And then play some sound effects in the background. What you do is the only way to get actual police response in the city of Detroit, okay? You call them up and you go, "Hello? 911? Yeah! Shit's broken down, man! They're coming! Jesus Christ, oh my God! Is that a fucking RPG?" And then just hang up. That's how you get a response from the police department in Detroit. And then they'll arrest you when they get there and find out that it wasn't all that, I'm sure. How is that and what's... to be honest, I live in England on the 12th floor of a tower block. I feel totally safe, but still, for the sake of paranoia, I keep a few knives in arm's reach of every part of the house. Well, you are a paranoid person, generally speaking. If only you had Naruto's infinite flat space pouch that can hold infinite kunai. Well, I guess if he can, maybe he's just like he's what is it? Age Bunshin no Jutsu! And then he's making just extras, It's not sort of much a Harry Potter bag as it is, he's just poofing them into existence with his ki or his chi or his kai or whatever it is. Nice sound effect, Pawn. You're missing a key detail, though. Make sure to take out the battery of the phone after so it looks like it was destroyed rather than hung up. So the interior of this house that looks not so good. Okay. Looks not so good from the outside. Yeah, paint peeling, and smoke damage, but it's where it should be. Fireplace. Okay? So it's not like a fire. Sure, there's it's a plastic just ripped down, but look at the windows. We've got armor guard in the windows, and the windows are still there. And in fact, these windows, just from where I'm sitting looking at them, I can't tell if they're vinyl or not, really. Because everything gets whitewashed on these old houses, so those are the latches that I'm looking at that I'm thinking, oh, see, that's probably vinyl windows. They could just be painted, old school latches. And that's a downside. If you're going to buy an old house, having to put windows into, having to replace all the windows is a big fucking deal. With my connection here in Hamtramck, you can buy a lot of used vinyl windows for $40, $50 a piece. So it's, the cost of getting the windows isn't so much the problem as the windows probably won't fit the holes in old construction. What they have in vinyl windows is not going to fit the old holes that you're going to have, which means every fucking window that you pull is going to have to be reframed or something. And that is just a bitch. Jim Cheering 5, wonder how much it would cost to upgrade a home to European spec in the U.S., says a guy called Jim. Well, I think you want to say not just in the U.S., but in Detroit, because this is a different sort of a mess. Modern houses in America don't look like this. Although, in a certain sense, modern houses in America are actually shittier than this, because this is all like fucking plaster and lath board and there will be metal grates in the bathroom. to hold up the weight of the tile and stuff. So you have like rigid metal for a wall, and then the plaster, and then the tile, and it's like a fucking castle that they used to make back then. Whereas now everything's made of, drywall, which I believe is paper, spit, bubble gum, and a little bit of cow semen. I think that's how they make it. But look, the windows on the front of the house that are all boarded up, they're still there. They're still there, and even from this angle, I can't tell whether those are vinyl windows or... They look vinyl windows, don't they? That little lip right there for, like, lifting, unless that's... I'm looking at it weird, for lifting the pane open, that's a plastic molded... It's a vinyl molded window there with that. So if these are vinyl windows, then that's one big pro, one big positive, a check in the column. Here's your fireplace. It looks fake. You got a gas line running into the fireplace there, I presume, is what that is. So yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a fake fireplace. It doesn't look deep enough to have an actual flue, does it? Okay. That kind of sucks. A blurry picture of some carpet. The carpet actually looks like it's in decent condition. Yeah, it needs to be vacuumed, but it looks like this carpeting is in decent condition. First or second story? I'm guessing second story because the windows aren't boarded over up here. Some mud work has been done on the plaster, I presume. Unless they drywalled areas that... No, it looks like... Well, maybe that's a sheet of drywall. But it looks like they're, plastering over holes and cracks and things that come from moisture over the years in a plaster home. Nice little, get these little... where you can sit down on the edge and just kind of look out 3 windows, all those directions. Lots of light in this house. It would just be the friggin' heat loss through old windows and old window openings. So you really hope that they've done vinyl windows, and you hope that when they did the vinyl windows, they sealed them well. Ronan Pawn says, Groggles, this will give you a good laugh. When I was at my parents', a neighbor's burglar alarm started going off at 3 a.m. while they were on holiday. Police asked, is there anything suspicious? I don't know. Maybe the burglar alarm? Well, if there's nothing specific, we'll send an officer to inspect in the morning. 5 minutes later, my mom rings the cops. There's a young man in their back garden. 5 minutes later, I say, hello, Mr. Friendly Cop. Oh, cool. Cool, that's a really good idea. Is there anything suspicious? And then you walk over there and walk around the house, and then you call them up and say, I just saw somebody out there walking around the house, and now they've got to come out. Oh, fucking brilliant. Brilliant, Groggles. What's the difference, really? So that's a little bit of damage. This is all looking like good. This is all recoverable in terms of the interior. That is a stylistic choice I wouldn't necessarily have made. Although, if you, spray painted that a different color and just kept the texture of it, that could be cool. If that were a really dark gray that sort of made it look like acoustic sonic paneling, which maybe it is or was called that when it was installed, but, that could actually look cool with the different textures going back and forth. That's what I'd do with it, because the less work you can do, the better. Work with what's there. But yeah, if you just sprayed that a dark gray, that could look very high style, high chic instead of, old rustic cabin. Ugh. I actually really like that kitchen styling. Oh, do you, Allogram One? I'm not a fan of the dark red woods, generally speaking. Maroon sort of woods don't appeal to me. It has some style, I'll say that. I don't agree with the style, but it has style. Just because you are a character doesn't mean you have character. Kitchen area with cupboards still standing anyway. It looks like that might actually be the lip of a sink there. So the scrappers maybe haven't gotten everything out of the house, and you've got this, and you got those little cabinets there. So you've got your range hood, and yeah, there's still a sink in the kitchen. So this house probably hasn't been hit by the scrappers, possibly because it's got armor guard and the windows are boarded, and it's a giant house that is, I believe, on a corner. So harder for them to move in and out of without people noticing, especially right on Gratiot. So what have we got here? Is this like a little pantry? It looks like a little pantry, doesn't it? So you got the kitchen space with a little closed door pantry. Got some not quite built-in cabinet, but that's a serious cabinetry. You could just, again, paint it, refurbish it in some way. I'm not going to spend the time to actually try and make, even if it's nice old wood and if you just sanded it down, that's not for me, It's just not going to be what I do. I just don't, in a 3,000 square foot home, I don't have the time to put that kind of effort in. This is odd. It looks like they had a wood burning stove in some portion of the house. That would be what I'd have to guess there. That they had like a little wood burner to add a little bit extra heat where the house was not getting heat, or maybe, the way that they've put that in after the fact and sealed it in with like what looks like concrete, knocked out a hole in the wall to vent it. This might have been something that somebody did when times got tough and they didn't have the money to pay the bills anymore and DTE cut them off and they needed some heat. That's the kind of shit that happens in this city. I like kitchens with little walls, says the Secretary Pony. Well, have I got the house for you? Must have looked beautiful when it was new. Yeah, when it was new, probably. Probably did. More windows, just exterior light coming into this house everywhere, along with, cold air in the winter and warm air in the summer, presumably, so that's the trade-off. Bathtub's still there, but then again, scrappers do leave the bathtub, and what isn't here is shower head, your overflow valve or your flap, your nozzles and your handles, also the unicorn belt and the Whizzit Bang. None of these things are here, so somebody has ripped some of the plumbing out. And also, what the fuck is that is my next question. What is this? What is that? I'm hoping that it's just some piece of like a sink that somebody took off, and I don't know what the hell that is. Why are you there? Moving on. Another beautiful fucking well-lit space. These are original windows. These are not vinyl. That one isn't, definitely. They've propped the window open. You can see that it's wood. So, yeah. Yeah, or it could just be really dirty vinyl that's off it and it's wood. It's original window, and that's going to let in a lot of... Well, some of them look like they're vinyl, though. Maybe. Possibly. In fact, this one looks like it's vinyl. Maybe they did one, like the bad windows, and two, maybe they did the windows that they could get in a certain size that fit the previous hole. Because that looks like a vinyl window, doesn't it? Like, I'm looking at the latch, and the latch... What else could you look at to give an indication of that? It also looks like it's got a little lip right there, molded, lip that would encourage that. But the other kind of latch that you'll see on the old windows is just a curved piece of metal that when you push it around, it slides in behind another piece of metal that's on the other side of the thing. So that looks more like... It doesn't look like that. That looks like an actual vinyl thing where you got a switch, where you got a, it's plastic. Damn it, Pony. We told you to put it away. Whoops, that's my dildo. What? Not the Whizzit Bang, says Hologram One. I like kitchens with little walls. It's an upside down sink. See the bowl under it? Oh, was it? Oh, yes, it is. Now I see it. Yeah. And that's the countertop and the bowl, and there's the sink. Okay. And then that would be your, that's your plug, your stopper arm. The stopper comes out there, and then it goes up to the, where you pull the lever, and then it pulls that, and then it closes the, yeah. Okay, so there's a sink there as well. There's a sink and a tub, all there. Old window in that room. Good place to store your crack or heroin, so that's nice. Just another view of the same window, hopefully. Yeah, it is, because there's this big hole there. Another good place to store your meth and crystal. And then this, I think, is going to be the second story walkout to a patio that is in disrepair at this point. I mean, we're seeing cable running along here. Will you give me a view of like outside? I don't think that's the first floor walkout. I think that's the second floor walkout. And check this out. This attic is, you've got very, high ceilings here. I wouldn't even bother finishing this attic. This would just be good storage space. Although if it were finished, it could make a fun little playhouse or something. One bedroom, I suppose it could be, but I wouldn't even worry about that. I just leave it as is. I mean, you got 3,000 square foot, presumably before you count the attic, because you're not allowed to count unfinished spaces, and this is definitely unfinished. Although, also, we're in Detroit, so people, make up their own rules as they go and post whatever the fuck they want on Zillow. I mean, they listed this for $53,000. And the amount of work that it would take to bring it back to life on the cheap would probably be 25. I mean, to bring it back to like, it's a nice place, it would be a lot of money. You'd have to decide what you're willing to live with. And me, I'm willing to live with a lot. So what is this? This is presumably upstairs, second story, another bathroom. This one's still got its toilet, so scrappers didn't steal the toilet, and it's got the bathtub. There's the... Oh, no, this is what we were looking at before, because there's the surface, there's your sink, and there's the counter. Yep, it's the same bathroom we were looking at before, but we're looking into it. Walk up from the first floor to the second floor, I presume. So this would be the main living room or dining room area. And downstairs, you've got the oldest furnace known to man. Yeah, it's nice. And look, your galvanized steel black pipe has decided to be red instead. So there'd be some new pipe needing to be run, but from there on, it looks salvageable. And Jesus Christ, look at all the there's so many valves on that fucking thing. How many different places and ways do you want to be able to stop your flow of gas? Maybe the whole control of the entire house is all valved right here. So you go down to the basement and all the valves are right there, and if you want to turn off the gas line to the stove, just and if you want to turn it off to the... Where else would gas go other than your oven? Okay, well, that idea is out. That's a lot of valves is what I'm saying. And then, okay, a communal toilet. A communal toilet where, 3 people can sit and all shit and talk at the same time. Good place to have a meeting, especially with... Was it Warren? Which president was it that was like famous for taking his meetings on the shitter? It was pre-Reagan. Pre-Reagan. Who came before Reagan? Yeah, it's 3 toilets. So you've got your option. Do you like it in blue, white, other white? And those are the pictures of this $53,000 listed 3,000 square foot home in the city of Detroit. Now, if I remember from the listing, you also get a garage. Well, we saw the garage, didn't we? This they say is the garage. But here's what I'm noting. The fence, and there's an opening in the fence to drive into your garage in this direction. And the reason why all right, back out a little bit and see where that fence line is. See, the fence line actually goes into this parking lot area. So the garage would be back there, and your access to the garage would be through, Fish and Seafood's parking lot or something like that. Yeah, because you can't drive through. It doesn't look like there's any passage between there for a car to get through on the side of the house. So yeah, that's how you get in. And that is reinforced by what they wrote about it, which is historic structure with detached garage situated on a corner lot just off Gratiot Avenue, 2 miles east to the corner of Jefferson and East Grand Boulevard. $50 million development, 8-story building. So now they start talking about things in the local area, Somebody's paying money to build something just 2 miles away from you, so that's why we listed it for $53,000. What a good opportunity this could be for you. Sure. Hello, Seaface. Seaface one. We've come to a first hour. We've actually managed to fill an hour with just random chat and looking at one property on Zillow, so I think we can get through the full 4 hours of it, but for now, we're going to take ourselves a live stream break, and when we come back, more chat, more AMA, if you got any questions you want to ask me anything, and I've got some stories to tell, including the story of my dad leaving for Florida. The house is empty, again, right now, no one in it. I don't count. I've never counted. So I will tell you the story of how my father left the house the other night, and it's a worthy story. It's one you're not going to want to miss. So stay tuned for the next half of our 7 minutes. Pawn not out. Hello, I am the Ronin Pawn, and welcome back to a twitch.tv/Ronin Pawn live stream. Gameless. We are nude today. We are nude. Well, we could get nude. See, there was still, you just got a little bit of a show. There's still like the semblance of you know, my 12-pack or whatever it is that I've got down there. We were looking at some houses on Zillow to fill some time, but I've got an idea. Have I got an idea? Oh, I've got an idea. Can we look up? Join me over here for a moment. Well, oh no, that doesn't work on the Google main pane. We'll just have a bit of a look is what we'll do. Detroit Public 911 records. What do we got, Google? Detroit 911 calls data.world, results matching topics, Police Freedom of Information Act to file for it. I think it just might be this. This table shows all 911 police emergency response and officer-initiated calls for service in the city of Detroit beginning January 1st, 2016. Indeed, this is it. This is it. I think this is it. Launch the workspace. I have to sign up now? I didn't sign up before. Maybe this isn't it. Maybe this is another site that put out this information. Hang on. Because since it came up, I would like to show you where these records exist. Public 911, no. Detroit 911 records. Because they're out there. If we can just find it. How do I... Freedom of information, results matching topic of calls for service. It's entirely possible that they pulled them. Once, people like me went looking and did the reports and went, really? 48-minute response time average when you call 911 within the city limits of Detroit. Results matching category of public safety at something called data.detroitmichigan.gov. Now, detroitmichigan.gov sounds rather interesting. Reported major crimes, all crime incidents from the 2016 to present. Map based on DPD. All crime incidents, December 16. Homicides, citizen complaints. Whoa. Received the Board of Police Commissioners. Do I have to click on data set over there? What do I have to do? View data? View the data. Is that what we're doing now? No, this is it. Yeah, this is it. I recognize this. So, complaints. Do you have like a description of what the complaints are about? Complaints, allegation, procedural, not sustained, admin closure, no charge, not sustained, exonerated, closure, sustained. 2 sustained demeanors against somebody's demeanor? It was an allegation of their demeanor. So they didn't speak to me well, and it was sustained. Yes, they definitely didn't speak to you well. Well, we're done here, right? Because I have called... as you may expect, if you know my history, I have called the, what do they call it? Internal Affairs, IA, for the police, and they didn't hang up on me, but they should have for the way that they responded to everything that I told them, and didn't even let me tell them a fraction of what I had to say before they're interrupting and saying, well, it sounds like the police did their job to me, so you're telling me, hang on, you're telling me that you called police because a woman who was literally bleeding and had thrown herself through a window to escape a man who was beating the shit out of her in her own home. Domestic call. You're telling me police didn't come for an hour and a half. He came to your home twice while you were waiting. The second time with a bat. You had to meet him in the street with a samurai sword and scare him off. Then they finally show up and they catch the guy up in the attic, but they don't want to turn the corner because it's dangerous. Come back down and tell the woman, so we can go up there and kill him, or we can just leave. Sounds like just, that's in the book, man. That is standard procedure. That's the response that I got from Detroit's Internal Affairs, and that was as far as I managed to get in the story before I decided this is a waste of my time having this phone call. What game is this, says Rookie84? Police Management Simulator 2018. Looks good, yeah. So, exonerated. We got 2 sustained. This was an unfounded claim on their procedure. No charges filed on property. No charge when somebody complained that police did something to their property. Possibly stole it, we don't know. Complaint about service, unfounded, not sustained, exonerated, no charge, not sustained, exonerated, not sustained, exonerated, exonerated, no charge, exonerated, not sustained, exonerated. So, two people. Twice. Just two people in that list. Their complaints were actually received, heard, and somebody went, well, that's valid. Okay, that seems fair. That sounds about right. All right, back me off of this one. This was not the one that we were looking for. I wanted to see the 911 data. I wanted all of it. So if we back up one more, this is the public data set. The city of Detroit hosting it themselves, making it public and available to you. Pawn, seeing if you can find the complaints you filed. Oh, I don't know about finding the complaints. I have found my 911 calls, and there are not as many as I made. Surprisingly. Which tells you that they're not keeping a record of when you call back and go, same situation, but no one's here, and oh yeah, the guy came to my house. Okay, same situation, still no police response. Now the guy's here with a baseball bat. I had to meet him in the street and chase him away with a sword. No, you're not, okay. We're dead. Send toe tags, body bags, please. Apparently they don't log all of your calls when you're waiting for them for an hour and a half. That would probably look bad in the records. All crime incidents. So I'm going to assume that this is basically all calls to 911. I don't know. These data sets based primarily information supplied to the police department by reporting agencies subject to verification. Maybe this is what I used to get my data? I don't know. Let's view the data. And if the data set looks right, then I'll know. Yeah, this is it. This is the one. This is the one. So this is mostly information based off of 911 phone calls. And it goes on. And it goes on. And it goes on. So what's the, where have you got like dates of incident? Incident date, 2018. So these records are up to the date as of yesterday. These are 24 hours. They're that close. Wow. All crime incidents as opposed to perfectly legal incidents involving the police is hologram one. They keep the records up to date. So at any time, if you would like to, for the city of Detroit, what you'll want to do, what I recall doing is I got rid of like a bunch of the fields. Let's see. Can you do this? Description, no description provided. Somewhere in here you can change how many of these fields you actually get. How many you see. And then I downloaded just the information that I needed, which was like priority. So there's a priority assignment somewhere in here, right? Location, report date, zip code, council, district, neighborhood, census block, precinct number, scout count area, hour of day, day of week, incident time, incident date, state, offense code. There, in my data set, there was a priority response category. It looked very much like this, but maybe this is different than the 911 records and just has, similar information in it because I'm not seeing priority. Huh. Anybody seeing something? It would be ones, twos, threes, and occasionally fours and fives, but you probably wouldn't see any because they're so rare. Ones and twos and threes, and yeah, I'm not seeing that in this data set. Damn it. I really want to pull up the 911 logs, and that apparently isn't it. So if I just search, Control F, 911. Okay, 911 calls for service. Jesus Christ, it's sitting right there in front of me. All right, calls for service 911. Give me the data set. There was a button for that. I didn't have to click to this page first. So now we get the priority numbers somewhere in here. Priority, okay? So what have we got here? Towing detail, priority 3, traffic stop, priority 2, be on the lookout, priority 2, traffic stop, priority 2, special attention, priority 3, priority 4, burglary residence report, priority 4. Now this goes to another story that I can tell that I've told you before about a friend, actually a fellow Zen practitioner who was a monk at one point. He was ordained. And he had left the Zen Center and moved somewhere in Hamtramck so that he could, just continue living his life just outside of the Zen Center halls, not as a monk. But Hamtramck is a wonderful place, so he found a place in Hamtramck to rent, I believe, with someone else, and they moved in, and he was living with a woman, and they worked different hours. She worked at night, so she slept during the day, and while she was asleep, two men climbed onto the roof, broke in through an attic window, came down into the house, walked into her bedroom, figuring the house was empty, and she's there in bed, nude, I've been told, as was her wont, the way that she slept in the heat. So, and I'm with you there, hon. But she was nude in her bed, two men walk in, she wakes up and looks over and screams bloody murder, and then they run. And she calls the police and says, two men just broke into my house. They were in my bedroom. I screamed and they ran out. And the police never came. Because apparently, as we're seeing here, it's a priority 4 when there's been a burglary, when there's been a break-in. They weren't in Hamtramck. They were as close to being in Hamtramck as you could possibly be, like 1 block north of being technically in Hamtramck. They were technically in Detroit, so the Detroit Police Department just never came. They said on the phone when she called, we'll send somebody by, how's tomorrow? The two men who had just run from her home, potentially carrying like tools and things. I don't know the details. Were they wearing masks? These two men will be running through the streets, trying to get away, maybe jumping into a car and squealing away. If you got over there, you might actually be able to catch 2 burglars, if you got over there. But as we see in Detroit's records here, a burglary residence report is a priority 4. It's the kind of call you say, how's next Thursday for you? We might have an opening then. And then they didn't come. They didn't come the next day. They never came. They just blew it off because the crime was already committed. It was already over. They couldn't be bothered to come out when it occurred. Fuck it. All crime incidents as opposed to perfectly legal. Nah, Pawn, it's not that the police have never come to. It's a priority 4. They'll arrive eventually, says Hologram 1. Well, they didn't to the one that happened to my friend and the woman who he was living with. Let's see. Priority 1, shots fired. In progress, IP. Shots fired is also a priority nothing, I believe. Because, people calling in saying, I just heard gunshots. Yeah, well, it's Detroit. That's just the local color. That's just birds. Instead of birds, we have gunshots. You wake up in the morning. Boom! That's just what we live with here. But shots fired in progress. Hey, we got a priority 1 call out of them. Assault and battery, priority 2. Priority 2. Assault and battery. Someone has beaten me. Priority 2. That's a crime already occurred. Assault and battery. Priority 2. You know why it's a priority 2? Probably because it sounds like a domestic. And that's what they assume. That's how the city of Detroit treats that kind of violence. Well, if it's between, 2 people sharing the same bed, then, I'm sure if you beat somebody who you didn't know in a parking lot at a bar because you didn't like the look of them or something like that, that would probably get a priority 1 when you called in after the fact and said, I just walked out of the bar, this guy beat the shit out of me. Although I won't go on record saying that definitely. But, somebody beats the shit out of you. You don't know who they are. Maybe the police will come. But if you're married or in a relationship with them and you share the same bed, priority 2. We'll be there in an hour and a half. That kind of thing. In fact, what's the, do we have the, how long it took? Intake time, dispatch time, travel time, zeros. Notice this. Notice that all of the things that we just looked at. 0 intake, 0 dispatch, 0 travel, 0 total response. So they're just not logging some of these, and some of them they just didn't go to. They just didn't go to. This, priority 1, shots fired, was intake, dispatch, and then travel. Intake, dispatch, and then travel. So intake time, 0.6. Dispatch 0.2, travel 2.8. Now the question is, are these minutes or hours? Because knowing Detroit really could be anything. What do we got down here? An assault and battery. The assault and battery, it was a priority 2. 1.5 intake, no record of having ever visited it. No record. Not even a 0 there. Just didn't fill it in. I'm just going to use this as a thing to scroll through. What do we got here? A disturbance? Priority 1 disturbance. How do you get a priority 1 disturbance? It looks like they were on the scene. 5.8. I'm going to assume those are minutes. So they responded very quickly here. Here we've got 30 minutes. That's the total, I believe, for the call. We've got a priority 3 larceny in progress or just happened. I'm going to guess IP or JH. Larceny in progress or just happened. That was a intake 1.2. So that's probably how long the person is on the phone with them. And then dispatch is 17.1 until they were sent, and then 11.8 until they actually arrived. So 30 minutes they waited for that one. 12 and a half minutes on 1 down drug OD. 1 down drug overdose. 12 and a half minutes for the police to arrive. 0 time to intake the call somehow, which is amazing. Their records are just trustworthy as shit, aren't they? They're still on the way, says Hologram 1, since yesterday. They're still on the way. I could believe that. I could believe that. Nobody's noted it. Yeah, these are just all zeros. Good fucking God with all the zeros. I suppose when I did the calculation, I must have told it to disregard 0 calls. So once you throw out all the shit that they've decided to not have information on, it looks like there's 14 and 20 and 48 minute response times. Had to show Puppies to my sister. You didn't blend them first, did you? 5.7 minutes on a priority 3 burglary occupant away just happened. Wow, you got somebody to come to your house when you weren't there? They must have had cameras. I had to get cameras. This one was a drug overdose. 17.6 minutes before they bothered to dispatch anyone. 2.6 to intake the call. 17.6 before 911 thought it was worth sending anyone to the scene. That's when they decided to dispatch. And then no record that they ever actually did arrive there. The ones that have blank spots are actually quite interesting to me. MT, Emergency Medical Services, something, and then it's a 3. Maybe they don't get information back from EMTs. So that would be they didn't even send officers to the drug overdose. They send the EMTs, and then they don't get the information back. But the fact that it says 17.6 in this column would suggest that they took 18 minutes. And if you add those on, they took about 20 minutes, a little bit over, to decide to send somebody to the overdose in progress. What do we got here? Panic, duress, alarm. Panic. 30 minutes. As a priority 2 somehow. A suicide in progress. Wow, really? Jesus, I need to watch the news. This city's exciting. 13.6 minutes to get to the suicide in progress. Recover an automobile priority 3, 26 minutes. Was it the mayor's or something? Why did you rush out for a priority 3, recover an automobile? Shots fired in progress, 17.3 minutes. Somebody's shooting. Okay, we'll try and be there in like 20. Does it sound good? These are actually, I'm surprised. I'm waiting to see the 50s, you know? I'm just going to clip through a couple of here and see, 100 total minutes. How did you add that up and get 100 on the call? I am, total response time, 100. Yeah, so what were you? Priority 2, auto x unk inj impaired. Auto accident, injured, impaired, I guess. 100 minutes total call time. They were on the scene shortly, but they were there for a while. Okay. 11.3 to another auto accident, and then they were there and gone in a brief amount. 5.3, person with a weapon. Oh, they showed up pretty quick to that one. When you actually hear somebody discharging a weapon, that's a 20-minute call, but 5 minutes to that one. It's very important what precinct you're talking about, too. Because if you're in downtown, you're going to see really fast low figures, because they make sure that the city looks to, people coming down to visit and spend their money. They make sure it looks like it's a reasonable, I feel safe here. And then when you go into the residential areas, well, you get 37-minute total response time to a unknown problem. Jesus, how the fuck do you guys get them to come to unknown problems? I got a guy outside my fucking house breaking the windows in, beating a woman tonight, and I can't get him to show up. What's this? A disturbance, priority 3, 47 minutes. Well-being check. I couldn't get one of those, and I'd been broken into. What do you got? A disturbance here, priority 3. Vicious animal. Okay, apparently they hate the pit bulls around here. It did take them 45 minutes to bother dispatching anyone, and then once they were dispatched, they were there on scene. I mean, to be honest, Pawn, 1 dead and a drug overdose is more ambulance than police. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Disturbance, well, somebody's got to write a, report on it, but in this city, that makes sense to me. 57.8 on a priority 3 disturbance. Don't know what it is. I'm not going to do this much longer. I'm just looking for, what I was expecting. Because these numbers are not good. These numbers are not good. Imagine you're calling the police and they're taking, 17, 18 minutes to show up. You wouldn't expect that where you live, would you? Because I got friends who live in Highland Park. My buddy Greg, in Dead Letters, we were in the band together, and Super Bomb, the music that I play on here, he lives just north of the Detroit line by a mile. Not even a mile. Because, there's 8 Mile, and then boom, he's up there like half a mile north of that, if that. He just lives slightly not in Detroit. He calls because the neighbors are a little loud. The cops are there in 4 minutes. The idea that you have actual shit going down and it takes the police, 17 to 20 minutes, that's not good. An escort, priority 3, says Hologram 1. What is an escort for the police? You gotta wonder, don't you? You gotta wonder. 5,000 block of Woodward Ave. They protect Woodward Avenue. Okay? Woodward Avenue is the strip. That's where we, make it look like we actually do our jobs. 7.8 minutes to what is this? Remarks? Somebody was saying something and they wanted to make notes of it. What do you got? Breaking and entering a vehicle in progress. In progress. You can stop this person. I see somebody's jimmying somebody's window open right now. He's in a hood. He's wearing black and white striped clothing. Making it as bad as possible. Breaking and entering an automobile in progress. What's the priority code, kids? What would you give that? In progress, someone trying to steal someone's car. Crime you can stop. What priority code? Because Detroit gave it 3. They gave it a 3. They waited 16.2 minutes to dispatch. That's 911 making that call, I presume. Deciding when to send someone. Travel time was then 5.3, and then 23.2 minutes later, somebody shows up, car's gone. What did the guy look like? Caller probably had to go even. 34 minutes on a missing report. Someone's missing? Or did you just forget to file a report like the 11th precinct did with the guy who broke into my house and then released him the next day? Is that, which one are you doing there? Dendy gifted a subscription to Pony. They've given 10 gift subs in the channel. Holy shit! Is that an event that I'm not prepared for with the overlay? A gift sub? Or did it just break the overlay because subscriptions sometimes do that? Let's go ahead and refresh the overlay in case that broke it. Wow. Cool, Dendy. What have we got? What am I looking at? 34 minutes to a missing report. We got 17 minutes to an unknown problem. 30 minutes to a burglary, occupied residence in progress. Now that's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. That's similar to what happened to me. A burglary where someone is in the house and it's in progress, okay? Apparently, it took them 1.1 minutes to call it in. Apparently, they dispatched immediately. So they got the person on the phone. That's what this says. 1.1 and negative 1.1 tells me that the person immediately dispatched. They got somebody on the phone and they said, "There's someone in my house. I'm hiding in the closet." And they immediately dispatched. That's what that says to me. Police did not arrive for 26.4 minutes. Person is in the house. Someone's breaking in to rob them. Half an hour later, police arrive. Well, no, 26.4 minutes, they arrive later. And then 30 minutes is the total call time. So 26.4 minutes they arrive. They're there for 4 minutes. So, did they kill you? No? What'd they take? Okay, we'll see you later. 4 minutes on scene. Interesting. Narcotics in progress, 7.3. Where was it? East of 7 Mile Road. Well, East 7 Mile Road, 14,400. I don't know. There's some certain areas that are, basically the drug areas, and they've got sort of task force on them. One over the wheel. What does one over the wheel mean? That means somebody passed out in their car? Somebody slammed into something and they're... What do you think one over the wheel means? They figured it to be a priority 2, and then as a priority 2, they didn't send anybody to it for 72 minutes, and then when they sent it, it took them 8 minutes to get there, and then the total call was 81.9. Is this the total time to arrive, or the total time spent? It's got to be total time spent on the call. So they drove in, they spent 2 minutes, and then they walked away. I mean, maybe they know their business, one over the wheel, so they didn't bother sending anybody. And then here's the thing. You don't know when you look at this whether or not, well, clearly then there wasn't really a problem there. It wasn't worth sending anybody out, and they made the right call. Or in the course of the 72 minutes, the over an hour, that they didn't bother to dispatch anyone to this incident, that the incident drove away, that it resolved itself. That maybe one over the wheel means there's a drunk dude, passed out in his car, beer in hand. You don't know. But maybe by the time they actually got out there, dude, woke up, downed another one, and drove off. So by the time they got there, there was nothing to do. You never know in this city. Burglary, other, category 3, 53 minutes. What's this one? Larceny in progress or just happened, number 3. 95.1 minutes. Didn't dispatch anybody for 85 fucking minutes. Interesting data. Interesting data to look at. These are really rubbish for incident details, as Hologram 1. Yeah. Black and white striped clothing. I guess Cobblebot is at it again. I know this is boring, but I just wanted to I wanted to share it because it's a rabbit hole that I went down at some point. Investigate a person took 91 minutes. Burglary business report, 75 minutes. One over the wheel. This one they got to at 11 and a half. I don't know what that means, industry term. Miscellaneous traffic for 66. Auto accident with someone injured or impaired. They were there for 84 minutes. They didn't dispatch them there for over an hour. Panic duress alarm. So this is somebody's house alarm, maybe, is what that means. That they didn't dispatch for 137 minutes. One down, drug overdose. We'll be there in an hour and 15. And in fact, they're there in an hour and a half. But that's when 911 decided it was worth sending anyone. Investigate an automobile. Sure, take your time on that. Disturbance. Just showed up in a hurry. Were you on Woodward? In Atkinson. I don't know. It matters what district you're in. 184 minutes for an unknown problem. 26 minutes to investigate a person. 18 for assault and battery. Didn't dispatch anybody for 8 minutes. Took them 6 minutes to get there. 18 minutes. If you get beaten in this city, you're fucked. You need a gun. That's all I'm saying. That's where I'm going with this. That's what you need to know. Okay? If you're coming to Detroit, be armed. Because they don't have your back. They're not coming. Nobody's coming. A duress alarm is a feature built into things like a safe, says Hologram 1. You put in a specific code and it opens the safe, but also sends an alarm to the police. Huh. Maybe that's the thing. I also have a panic button on my alarm system that will fire that, and then my company calls me and that kind of thing. And when my company calls me, they have no idea how fucked things are here in the city of Detroit, because they call me up and say, are you at the home? Did the alarm go off for any good reason? And I've had, scenarios where I wasn't home. And I said, no. The first time this happened after I got the alarm, I said, no, I'm not home. I'm not home. I'm 30 minutes away. Yes, please call the police for me. And they called the police. And then they called me back and said, okay, this is really weird. The police won't dispatch unless somebody's seen someone in the house or something. They won't dispatch on an alarm. And I thought that was weird. But it was more so shocking in retrospect that the dispatcher thought that was weird. Because these dispatchers, it's a national board. You know, they're not local dispatchers. My security service is not a local security service. It's nationwide. So they've got, you know, people sitting somewhere, anywhere in the country, and they get calls from all sorts of places. Detroit, from, you know, Houston, all over the country. And you would think that if it's a normal sort of a thing for police to be like, you know, we get a lot of security and alarm things, triggers, and we can't come to all of them, you would think at least the people running those phones would be used to hearing that, and they'd call back and be like, I'm sorry, but it turns out that, you know, your district, they won't come unless you've got like a camera and you've seen someone in the house or something like that, so there's nothing else we can do. You would think that would be the response you'd get from them, but no, the response that I got was someone very, like, tense on the other end of the line, being like, I can't believe I have to tell you this, but the police won't come. So as much as, you know, I have gotten a response when I've talked about this from some people saying, yeah, well, they get a lot of that bullshit and they've got more important things to deal with in the city of Detroit, I acknowledge that, and I also note that it's not that way most places. It's so not that way that the people who do the job of dispatching for security companies are shocked on the other end of the line when they call the police and they say, oh, burglar alarm going off? Yeah, we don't do those. Thanks, so bye. Just checked. One over the wheel means someone passed out in traffic, says Groggles. Drunk or exhausted. Often ignored. One over the wheel passed out in traffic. They didn't come for 78 minutes, and by the time they came, no one was there, so they just drove off. Drunk person at the wheel. So drunk they passed out. Potentially. This is a wonderful city. When the alarm company is surprised, you know something is fucked, says Hologram 1. Yeah. And I can acknowledge that, you know, the city of Detroit is a special case, and there's a lot of crime going on, and there's a lot of stuff, and we can't get to all of these things, and we can't go, you know, driving down and looking at houses, because, I mean, look at our response times to one over the wheel. You know, if we were trying to stop by every house that had an alarm in the course of the night, we'd never get anything done. I can acknowledge that. However, I am going to bring up the fact that that's not how it is almost anywhere else in the world. Or at least in this country and in other, you know, modern nations. It's not that way. So, why do you think it's that way? Could it have to do with the fact that when you go to priority twos, you know, just from what we looked at, like 20 minutes? So crimes that you could prevent, 20 minutes is what we've seen here. Now, when I've pulled the averages before, it's been 48 minutes average. But do you think that maybe it's your policy of not going to the crimes that you can prevent and focusing on the crimes that have already happened? And also, apparently, having internal policies, just from what we looked at here today. Ah, shit, you guys couldn't see the numbers. I didn't realize chat was over the numbers. Just from what we've looked at here today, apparently there are internal policies. Dropped frames detected? God damn it.